Right, crash course OBS. I have two instances. One is for recording and the other one's for showing you the settings, since I can't show you the settings on the same instance I'm recording on. So yeah. This is going to be a video on how to record locally in high quality whilst at the same time streaming to Twitch in whatever setup you've got at the moment, also having a local copy that is as high quality as possible. And if you want to have a video to send to an editor, it's a lot better to have a recorded locally file that is of high quality than just having them download the VOD and having it be compressed, because if it's going to get uploaded to YouTube, their bit rates are just way higher than what you can stream at. Like 1080p 30 FPS is 8 megabit, whereas you get, I think it's like 6 is like the maximum you can stream out on Twitch. I'm going to be covering like some settings for the max quality. I'm going to be covering some tips to make the file better to work with for editors, show you how to set it all up, and keep in mind, this is on a 1 PC setup, this. I will cover how to do this eventually on a 2 PC setup, but not in this video, because that's going to take some extra figuring out on my part, because there's some features in this that would be different in a 2 PC setup. So 2 PC setup video coming eventually, TBA. But yeah. So I'm going to show you an example of, up on the screen here, what you can expect as a before and after, so that you can see the difference of what an editor would be working with. I'm going to show you how to separate your microphone and your desktop audio out, so that if they need to mute the desktop audio when it's being loud during some funny moment, they can. I'll also show you, if you've got a local recorded file, how to get a timestamp in that file from a clip. If an editor goes, I want to use that clip in an edit, and they want the high quality version of it. So I've got a clip here from my boy Labrizzy, that I'm choosing as an example. There's a little button here that is watch full video. So you get the clip, someone sends you the clip, you click watch full video, and if you've recorded this, if you set it up the same way I have, your local file will be about the same length as the VOD. So you can just get this timestamp here that it will take you to in the video of when the clip is, go to there in the file, and that will be where the actual clip is. Onto the actual setup. So we're going to start off, right click, advanced audio properties. Got these audio tracks here. Now I've got mic, aux, and desktop audio. This one I don't use because this is my capture card, or no, sorry, it's not my capture card, it's my webcam rather. Track 1 needs to be both your microphone and your desktop audio. This is so that this will be what you send to your stream. So your stream will hear both your microphone and your desktop audio. Meanwhile, you've got track 2, which is just your microphone. This will be for editing, so that if they want to just get the microphone audio, they can as an editor. And this one, so you can just have the desktop audio in channel 3, and the other ones don't matter because they're just extra channels. And we're not going to use them. So that's step 1. Also, just as a side note, I know that you can also separate individual applications into these channels, but that's using third-party software. I'll try and cover that in another video because that's extremely useful. If you want to separate your game audio from Discord or something, to mute your friends that are talking over your funny moment with some game audio, then yeah, you can do that, but I'm not going to cover that in this video, since that is something for a video of its own. So then we're going to go into here, automatically record when streaming. I'd advise that just so that your videos match up with the VODs. I would not recommend enabling keep recording when stream stops, so that if you stop your stream, your local recording will stop, and then when you start it back up again, say you have to restart it in the middle of the stream and your VOD gets split in 2, it will also split your local recording in 2, which means that your timestamp will match up from clips if people send them to you, which is very, very useful. Next stop is the video settings. Your base and your canvas resolution should be the same. I advise the highest resolution possible. If you need to stream at a lower resolution than this, don't worry, we can downscale that somewhere else. It's not important. It's just important to have these both just as high as you can put them, really. This will be the sort of the cap for what you can record at locally, and ideally we want the highest quality possible, so highest possible resolution. Downscale filter, you've got bilinear, bicubic, and Lanczos. I don't notice much difference between bicubic and Lanczos. Bilinear, there's a little bit different. In terms of your actual stream, people aren't going to notice, really. It's usually the limited bitrate for streaming in general will cause compression artifacting anyway, and often it'll hide any of this so that no one's going to really notice it unless it's like sitting there on a still screen for ages. So I recommend just buy Cubic because it performs well. I've heard of some issues with lens loss and some artifacting stuff. I think they've sorted it out now, but still, I'd just recommend buy Cubic since it's good and it works. FPS values, I'd set this as high as 60, but no higher. If you've got like a 144 Hz monitor, I'd just keep it at 60. Just because if you set it any higher than that, you're not gonna be able to stream. Like unless you found some magical way to stream at like 144 FPS with only a 4K bitrate. That's, you know, in general, you want to set this at what you can stream at. Unfortunately, that will also limit what you can record at locally. You cannot set a different frame rate for streaming and recording locally. That is not a feature in OBS yet. Unfortunately, I would like for there to be, because then I could stream at 60 FPS and record at 144 and have like butter smooth recordings, but they don't have that as a feature. So I'd just say set this as high as you can afford to stream at, and that way you'll also get the highest quality possible local like recording. Next is advanced settings. So we're gonna go here. This bit is just basically about file name formatting. So if you hover over here, it will tell you what all of these, all these abbreviations mean. Basically, I've got it set up to be the year, the day, the month, sorry, the day, hour, minute, seconds. If you just overwrote this all with recording, then what would happen is you'd get recording 1, recording 2, recording 3, unless you enable this, which I do not ever recommend enabling, just because if you press recording, start recording, and stop it and press it again, you could overwrite a file and lose a VOD, basically, which I don't know. I don't know why you'd ever enable this. If you wanted to get rid of the file, you can just go to it and delete it. So that, just to be safe, I wouldn't enable it. I just recommend leaving that as is. Good enough. Plus, it gives you, since it gives you the day, you know what day the stream is from, and therefore it's sort of easier to sort through them. Okay, so output settings. So for streaming, you're going to want the most important part is track 1, because track 1 is the one with all of the audio channels mixed into one. I assume you already have this set up since this is about the recording, not so much the streaming, but make sure you got that set to CBR. CBR you're not going to want to use for recording. CBR basically just keeps the bitrate constant regardless of the quality. So you set it to 5000, it will always be more or less 5000. I've obviously got the resolution reduced to 720 because I only want to stream at 720, not 1440p, because that will be a higher resolution, but the bitrate won't be enough to handle it, so it'll look like crap. So yeah, the entire point of CBR is that the advantage of it is that it prevents buffering. That's why you use it for streaming, because it's always at the same bitrate. Therefore, the person watching the video isn't going to have, the networks take time to react to requests for a large amount of speed. So if the speed is constant, it just carries along and it's relatively stable. Whereas if it suddenly thinks, oh, okay, he's not drawing very much, and then all of a sudden a high, action scene comes on the stream and it's asking to use more bitrate, it will just crap itself and you'll end up with buffering, which no one wants. They'd rather have the quality go a bit dodgy, like this. I got a clip from my boy Labrizzi, where the bitrate just goes to shit the second all the stuff on the screen starts moving, and you can see his face is all compressed, and yeah. So that's what CBR does. It sacrifices a bit of quality when stuff starts moving everywhere, but in general keeps the stream more stable so that you don't get buffering and the little turny wheel. And in general, the way to mitigate that is by lowering the resolution, raising the bitrate, so that it still keeps the quality even at those higher, movement times in the video. Now, onto the next bit, which actually isn't recording. It's going to be audio. Replay buffer, we don't have to worry about. That's a separate thing. It's basically for if you have... It will keep a buffer of the last X number of seconds. So say you've got it set to 30 seconds, you can bind a hotkey to basically dump the last 30 seconds of recording to a file if something exciting happens. But But this is just going to, our setup is just going to record everything, and then you go back through it and clip out the bits that you want. Because no one wants to be sitting there on a stream having to remember to hit a hotkey in order to save their shit. Some people use it, I don't like it. But yeah, audio bitrate, if you don't know, should basically always be set to 320. They recommend like 128, I believe, at Twitch, I think. But 320 is basically the only way to avoid what is known within some circles as the infamous audio pop, which is some kind of OBS encoding error where, for some reason, if it's set below 320, randomly throughout your stream, at some point, it will artifact during the encoding process of the audio. I don't know why, I don't know how, but you'll end up with this click or this pop where it just goes to max volume and straight back down in like one or two or a couple of samples of the audio, and basically results in everyone using headphones in the chat going, my ears, So yeah, set everything to 320, because in the grand schemes of things, 320 is like 320 kilobits. That's nothing compared to what you're going to be streaming at, which is 5,000 kilobits. So just set it to 320. It doesn't matter. Pretty much every device on Earth can handle it anyway, these days. Obviously, naming the tracks is kind of useful. So I've got master here, which is basically everything mixed together, voice, and system sound. Next is the most important stuff, which is recording, the recording settings. So in this case, I'm just going to go through almost all the settings. There's some that I will gloss over because either I don't know enough about to properly inform you guys on it, or they're just like not that useful or important. Type, standard, recording path, fairly self-explanatory where you want to save the files. I have a second hard drive that I just dump all of them on because you're probably going to generate fairly big files from this because you want them to be max quality, and they're not going to be that bitrate efficient for that quality. And the entire point of making them less bitrate efficient is that it costs less performance to record them by putting less strain on whatever's encoding it, and just throwing more bits at it. Recording format, I use MP4. Doesn't matter that much. I just recommend MP4 since it works with everything. It gives you a little warning. It won't be recovered if it crashes. So basically, if OBS crashes midstream, it might not be able to finish saving the file. You might be able to recover it using some software. But I don't think many formats can avoid that. So I wouldn't worry about that too much. And it says that you might want to consider using MKV if you want to use multiple audio tracks. I know that works. Don't worry about it. Just ignore the warnings and use MP4. I advise you can use MKV, but I just use MP4 or FLV if you want. Right, audio tracks. You want basically all of your audio tracks that you're actually using in this one. You could leave out one if you wanted, but the main reason why I keep the one with both of the channels mixed down is because then I can watch the video back using just that audio track just in a regular video player instead of video editing software, because video editing software will be able to play those multiple tracks at once. Most just regular video players will only be able to play one track at a time. Next is the encoder. I'm using NVENC, which is NVIDIA's on like the graphics card encoder rather than on the CPU. This takes the load off of the CPU, and in general, it puts like almost no load on the GPU because the GPU's part of it that it uses for rendering games is not the same bit that it will use for this. So it has like a special on the card like chip for this, so you don't get like almost any performance hit for this at all. Which is why I advise using it if you have an NVIDIA card. If you have an AMD card, it will be like AMD VCE, I believe, is the name of it. I don't know exactly, but yeah. Either way, select either NVENC, AMD VCE. You could use QuickSync if your processor supports that. But yeah, in general, I'd say in order of preference, NVENC, VCE, QuickSync. And then if you have like none of them, then you're going to have to use X264. If you have to use X264, I just recommend using the ultra fast preset. So under like X264 ultra fast, just because that will take as much load off the CPU as possible. Right, now Rescale output, probably don't want that. We want max quality. Custom muxer settings, I don't know how to use, and they have like very minimal impact anyway. Right, rate control. This is kind of important. You do not want CBR because we're trying to get good sort of bits per quality. VBR is okay, but still not great. You either want CQP or CRF. Basically they do more or less the same thing. They reduce, they try to get the best sort of bits per quality, but they do it in slightly different ways. CQP would be over the average of all the frames. All of them look much better on average than CRF. What CRF does is if there's a high like a lot of movement going on screen, it will actually reduce the quality because you're less likely to notice it, and then use those bits to get more quality in the still frames when you're more likely to notice that extra quality. That being said, if you're handing it off to an editor, they might want to slow some stuff down, in which case those bits are going to be more compressed. I personally recommend CQP over CRF, but you don't always have a choice. In this case, I can't even choose CRF. I can only choose CQP, which is fine by me. But yeah, if you have the choice for them, CQP, then I'd say CRF if you can't choose that. And if you can choose neither of them, then VBR is probably the next best thing. Alternatively, lossless. Now, lossless you could use, and you would have pristine video quality, no compression. But on the downside, your file sizes are going to be absolutely colossal, and you're going to need a monster hard drive to hold them if you choose that. I would highly recommend just choosing CQP or CRF. This number called CQP in this case, I think it would be called CRF if it's under CRF, but basically this is just a number for the quality. The lower the number, the higher the quality, but the bigger the file is going to be. In general, I find you get vastly diminishing returns below 20. So I'd keep it between 20 and 25, maybe 30 if you're willing to lose a bit of quality, but personally I'd recommend between 25 and 20. In my case, I've got it set to 25 because I think 25 looks good enough. Next is keyframe interval. Doesn't really matter. I have it set to 0 because auto. I don't actually honestly know really what it does. I've tried different settings. It doesn't seem to make a lick of difference, so your mileage may vary, but just leave it on whatever it is by default. Preset, I just leave that on default, just because I've tried different ones and they barely seem to make a difference, at least as far as I can see. Profile, either probably main or high. Basically, these are just in terms of what features it will use to of the compression algorithm to make the file size smaller with the same quality. Now, basically, what setting it to high would do is it would reduce compatibility with certain video players on like mobile or maybe some editing software, although I think most editing software might be able to handle high, but that being said, it might slow down the editing software. So I'd say, in general, main is good. Just leave it on main. Main seems to be supported by just about everything. Yeah, I mean, you don't need that much compatibility anyway. I guess you could set it to high, and then if you ran into a scenario where you couldn't use it on high, you could either just switch this to main, or you can re-encode it using main. But yeah, I'd say just leave it on main, or if you want to save a little bit more storage space, you can set it to high, but I don't think it's like a huge impact level. I honestly don't know what that does, but it doesn't seem to make any difference from what I've played around with it. 2-pass encoding, you must turn this off for CRF or CQP. If you use it for either of them, it will crash because they're both 1-pass encoding only methods, so that has to be off. GPU is 0. That's basically in relation to MVENC. That's in terms of what graphics card it will use. If you've got a multi-card setup, you could set it to like go on the second one, so that first one has maybe, I don't know, it won't actually affect the amount of processing power that it has available to it, but it might affect like the thermals of the card maybe, like it might get a bit hotter, tiny bit, like a degree or two, but really it doesn't make much difference. So I say set it to 0, screw it. B-frames is still on the default too. Again, one of the settings that I'm sort of like, I don't notice any difference in changing. And yeah, that's pretty much it. If you think this video is useful, be sure to like share it with anyone else you think it will be of help to. Have a good day, and I will see you guys hopefully in the next video.